Hello. I kind of want to do a little bit of a chit-chatty video. Just not a, well, I don't know if it's going to be a get to know me because there would be so much to go over, but just kind of what's on my mind right now. And so I've been going to therapy since December, January, February, March. I think January is when I started therapy. And I think honestly, and I've been going every single week. Every Tuesday I go to therapy. And I really think the biggest thing that has come from it is just having someone to talk to, because I'm not somebody that, I don't like to I don't like to complain. So I don't like to sound like I'm complaining, and I just feel like if you're around people that complain, or if you're talking with people that complain, it's very easy to start complaining, and I just don't like to be that person, because I understand that like my heart might not be hard and other people's hearts are more hard, and whatever I've been through or going through, whatever. And the other thing too is what's hard for me, or why it's hard for me to talk to people about things, is because my thought process used to be like, I don't want to be pitied. Like I wouldn't talk to family and like tell them things, or just whatever, friends, because I didn't want people to feel like they had to give me pity. So I don't know, I feel like my thought process has just always been a little backwards on it. So point of that is that therapy has just helped to be able to talk. I just feel good after therapy because I've been able to like get stuff off my chest. And the more that you talk about things, the more you're like, oh, that makes sense. Or like, oh, that sounds freaking dumb. Like, or now that makes sense. Why did I think that? That's so dumb. You start to talk, and then you just like, you start coming to realizations of things. And so anyways, the reason why I started going to therapy is because of my relationship with my mom. And so with bodybuilding, like, yes, I've only just recently started competing. I won my first show in 2021, and I was 22 years old. 22. Oh my God, 23? I'm 25 now. I was about to say I'm 24. I'm 25 now, about to be 26. So, anyways. So I've been bodybuilding for like 2.5 years. November 2021 is when I won my first show. So then I would have just... I'm going to stop. My mind's not working. Anyways. So the preps would be amazing. Okay? Like my preps... Those 12 weeks that I'm cutting, literally tunnel vision, like just all-time high, feeling amazing, killing it, crushing it. And then after the shows is always when I'd go into just a completely just terrible state, gain 20, 30 pounds, like just go off the deep end with food and start coping with food. And I've done that too many times now, that I'm just like, okay, I need to get to the root of the problem, because this is going to keep happening after, like, if I want to compete for as long as I can, and there's not a huge window for me to compete, it's like, I need to get to the root of what is going on, because I can't keep coping with food after these shows. And so I know that my relationship with my mom is the reason why I go through these bouts of whatever you want to call it. I never liked to label it depression, but that's just for lack of a better term. Maybe, I don't know. Like, that's just what it's been. Like, I've called suicide hotlines before. I've not wanted to be here before, and have thoughts of like, if I wasn't here. And I just like, I hate thinking like that, because it's like, I hate that I thought like that. And I don't know if it's like embarrassing, or it's like, it feels pathetic to have thought like that. Anyways, and that's why when I moved out when I was 17, like I'd always fluctuate in weight. Like, yes, I found the gym, and mentally that's the thing that like really changed my life. But I'd always go through seasons of, okay, then I stop going to the gym, then I start binge eating, and this has been going on since I was 17 years old, and I'm 25 now. And it just really is time to, like, change this cycle. And the reason I moved out is because, like, long story short, my mom got into a relationship with a guy and basically, like, didn't forget about us, but her priority became him. And what made that really hard is that growing up, until I was, like, 10 years old, my brother and I were her life. Like, she was a single mom. She was working full-time, going to school full-time. But, like, we would have, like, up until probably around 10, we would have never known that we were struggling. Like, she gave us the biggest birthdays, the biggest Christmases, like, gifts to the ceiling, okay? And vacations. Like, that's the last time I've taken a vacation, really. But actually, that's a lie. I went to Hawaii in 2021, I think. But, like, we would go on vacations and just would have never known that we were actually, like, piss poor, or, like, what we were going through, what my mom was going through financially. Like, yeah, we didn't live in the nicest area, but we had a roof over our head. We were getting gifts. We were getting spoiled. My mom, I just remember, like, I was attached to her hip. Like, anytime she'd go to work, I would be calling her work phone and asking to talk to her, you know? And so my memories of childhood are just great. I was so close with my mom. I was attached to her. And I would always cry when she left. Like, if her and my brother tried to go to the movies, like, I'd freak out. I just was attached to her hip. And then when she met her boyfriend when I was in, like, 7th, 8th grade, that's kind of, like, when everything changed. And, you know, he is, and just is just not a good person, and just was verbally abusive to me. And God knows how he is and was to my mom. You know, I mean, I lived with it, so I saw what I lived with. But it just, like, all the attention kind of got taken away from us and just onto him and his kids. And, you know, being a teenager, 14, 15 years old, like, that's, you know, and that's a really big time period in your life. You're going through puberty, high school. I mean, I went to do 2 different elementary schools, 2 different middle schools, 4 different high schools. We moved every 2 years of my life. From the point I was in 4th grade, we moved literally every 2 years. It was just, there was no, like, stability. And then my mom with this guy, that was terrible. Like, it just, you know. Anyways, so fast forward. When I moved out at 17 and I left, and I remember the night I left, and I remember the argument her boyfriend and I got into, and I was like, I fucking hate you and I will never be back here. So I left. And then from there on, like, I feel like from 17 to now, I've just been surviving. I've just been trying to survive. And I left high school early because I wanted to start college early, and I was like, I want to get ahead of the game. But I didn't really have a game plan. I went for kinesiology because I knew I loved working out. But also I didn't really have, like, so then I started doing my GEDs, the required classes, doing kinesiology. But then also I was always working 2 or 3 jobs at one time. I worked at a kickboxing gym. I was working at a sandwich shop, a pizza shop, serving, like, I was always doing something with going to school, taking 2 to 3 classes, and then like around 3 classes. And then I just started slowly dropping classes. And when I moved out at 17, living with my grandparents is really when, like, the depression started to kick in. And I literally couldn't show up to school anymore. I stopped working at the kickboxing studio. I just, like, couldn't. It was so hard to show up for life. And then I moved in with my brother for a little bit, and I definitely remember at that point, like, I would have high highs and low lows, working jobs that I fucking hated. I worked at a hotel, and I was fucking miserable, and so that was the only job that I've ever left without giving a 2-week notice. I literally fucking hated it. It was the worst job ever, and I was so depressed and miserable. And then from that point, from living with my brother, that's when I got my certification for personal training, passed my NASM on the first go, which, like, was, like, a huge accomplishment for me. And it's funny because I remember calling my brother. I was, like, crying. I was so happy. And he was like, okay. So just pick and choose who you share your news with. That's why I don't that's why I don't have a lot of friends. I don't really share things. Besides with the internet and with strangers. Make that make sense. Anyway, so got my certification in personal training. I started working at 24 Hour Fitness. And then I was doing really well there. I was selling training, no problem. It was going really great. Then COVID happened. And then, which I was I started training clients out of the garage. And then I was training clients at the park. And then during that time, my brother was moving out of state. And so I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? So I moved in with a friend for a little bit. I hated it there. Was still training clients at like the park. Then I started working at a different 24. Hated it there. And then around this time when I was from living with that friend is when I applied here. And I was like, okay, well, if I don't get accepted here, like I'm probably going to have to move back in with family or try to move back in with family, which would have been my uncle. And then I got accepted here. And literally not even 6 months, because I never went out, okay? And then COVID happened around when I was 21, 22 to be able to, like, go out. And so it just stopped me from going out. So I never really went out. So when I moved in here, I was at a point in my life, I was, like, 22, and I was like, you know what? Like, I'm open to start going out. Then, not even 6 months of living here, I met a guy, and that's how I started bodybuilding, when I was, like, 22. But I wasn't super serious about it at the first. Anyways, the point of all this I'm trying to make, so within 6 months of moving into my own place, kind of finally getting some sort of like, okay, I can like slow down for a second and like reevaluate my life maybe. I got into a relationship, and that was just a year and a half of fucking just pure toxicity. And I'm not a victim because I put up with that and I chose to stay with that. But like that was really the first time that I've been in like, not the first time, that's a lie. I was in a relationship before that for 6 months, but it was really a really toxic relationship. But that's the reason why I started bodybuilding though. I don't know if I would have started bodybuilding if I hadn't met him. And so it definitely changed my life in a lot of ways. But then after that relationship, I was like right into another relationship. And then this is the first time in my life where I'm single. And I feel like this is the first time in my life, the first time since I've moved here 4 years ago, where I've stopped and I've been like, I can fucking breathe. And the first time where like, I really know what I want to do in life and I know what I love. And that is nutrition. I want to be more educated. I value education so much and knowing what the fuck I'm talking about. It makes me feel so insecure to feel like less educated or dumb. Like I don't want to be dumb, you know? And I know that I study, and I know in school I've always had to study harder, just because like the way I study is 100 flashcards, and I can remember 100 flashcards in a night. Like that's, if I had a hidden talent, it's that I could study. You can give me 100 flashcards, I could study them, ace the test in the morning, but then I'm going to forget everything until I start actually applying it. But I know that I value education, and I feel like for the first time, I know what I want to do in life, and that is nutrition, learning more about the body, like why and how the body works. And it's like clicking now to me finally that like I have a platform where girls literally send me messages, and whether they look up to me or they turn to me for advice, whether it's life advice, whether it's like training advice, whatever it is, I have people that are looking to me, and I feel like I just have so much more to offer that my priorities have been so skewed because I've been in these 2 back-to-back relationships where like I was like so focused on taking care of them and just prepping. Like it was me doing, in those relationships, I literally did everything. I know I cooked all their meals. I literally would do everything for them, and it was just exhausting. And that's why like getting out of, after 4 years, I just felt I had a period of time since my breakup to now where I just was like exhausted from just taking care of people for so long and just dealing with BS. Anyways, so now I'm like secure in what I want to do, and how this all ties into my mom is I don't want to go back into that same rhythm of prep, tunnel vision, post show, get depressed, eat a bunch of food, do it again. Because I know the one thing that's going to change my trajectory of my life and my bodybuilding is healing my relationship with my mom, because that is what matters to me the most. Like, how am I going to be here justifying building relationships with friends when, like, I'm not building a relationship with my mom? And it's hard for me to, like, build relationship with friends, too, because I just feel like I'm going to do everything for them, and then they're going to, like, take advantage of me and leave, because that has happened in the past. And so I just know that I have still growing to do, but I know that it's going to start with healing the relationship with my mom. And today was the first time. So my mom she reaches out all the time. Okay, there's so much more details into this, but she reaches out all the time. She texts all the time. I know she feels bad about everything that happened. She, like, disappeared from my life for a few years, didn't talk to her for 2 years, didn't think about her for 2 years. Anyways, she lives in another state. She reaches out all the time, and she called me the other day, and, like, I didn't answer the phone, and, like, my heart kind of sank. Like, I just was getting anxiety, and I talked to my therapist, and she just basically was like, you know, like, just talk to her like she's a friend that you're talking about your day with. And hearing that really kind of clicked it in for me that, like, okay, this phone call we don't need to go over the last decade of what happened and what went wrong and why did you do this, that, the other. Like, it can literally just be a phone call about the present moment and about now. And the book that I'm reading, The Power Now, if you haven't read it, you should. I read that book. I've had it for, like, probably, like, when I moved in here, so at least 3 years. I probably read it, like, 2 years ago, or I don't know, in a prep at some point. Anyways, just about being present, and I picked up the phone and called her today, and that might not sound like a huge deal, but it is a huge deal, because it's like I've been dreading that first phone call, and it was just like we just talked about, and my mindset was like, well, why am I going to talk on the phone? It's just going to be superficial shit. Like, we need to talk about what matters. Like, why did you leave me? Why did you pick your boyfriend over me? Like, why did you do this, that, the other? You know, like, but it doesn't need to be that. It can literally just be us, like, learning each other again. She doesn't know who I am. She's missed the last fucking 5+ years of my life. Like, more than that. It's been like 7 years of my life, you know, and I just picked up the phone, called her, and we talked for an hour, and it was nice. But I did learn some things. Her telling me, going back, how it ties into when I was talking about my childhood, is like how the thoughts I have of my childhood up until like 10 years old is how amazing it was. And she was like, did you guys even think like that? And I was like, yes, like those are all my memories of childhood, is that it was amazing. Like, you spoiled us. It was us three against the world is what it felt like. And she was telling me, like, I didn't know about the money problems until, like, early teenager years, when it was just, we don't have money for that, we can't do that, we can't do this, had to drop out of sports and all that kind of stuff. And she was telling me, like, yeah, like, I had credit cards where I was like, okay, I have $25 left on this card, we can go to Hometown Buffet. And hearing that was like, I would have never known that as a kid, that we were struggling that much, you know. Like, she never showed that to us. She gave us the fucking world. And the fact that she even had to ask, like, oh, did you guys even think that I gave you the world? It's like, that's what I want her to know. And that's why it's just going to be important for me to, you know, keep talking to her, because I know how badly she wants to talk to myself and my brother. And what's made all this so much harder is that she was and is such an amazing human being and mom, and she literally does everything for everybody, is so selfless. She doesn't take any time for herself, and it's probably why she got wrapped up in that toxic relationship and why he takes advantage of her, and she's let him manipulate her and all that stuff, because of how kind and giving and caring and loving. She was superwoman, raising 2 kids at 24 years old, working full-time, going to school full-time. Like, she did it all. And that's why I know that I'm capable of doing so much of what I do, is because I get that, like, resilience from her. And I've learned a lot from her actions of what I don't want, such as, like, relationships and stuff. And I'm really glad that, like, moving out made me bust my ass and work harder, versus, you know, I easily could have just moved out, been depressed, got into partying, drugs. Like, I never partied. Like in high school, when I left at 17, everyone was partying and living at home. It's like I couldn't relate to anyone my age. I was working 3 jobs, busting my ass, started college. Like I wasn't partying, I wasn't drinking. My priorities are so different, which is why I didn't have friends. I didn't have time for friends. I didn't make time for friends. No one could relate to me. I couldn't relate to anyone at that age. So, with all that being said, it's one crazy to think like I knew we were struggling when we were kids, and that's why she was in like 80 grand of debt, whatever. But it's just crazy to think like where I am now, the fact that she had 2 kids and was like $25 to go to Hometown, but okay, we could go to Hometown Buffet. And I'm over here being sad, or, whenever I get through my bouts of sadness, I don't have to worry like that. I've been able to put myself in like, no, I'm not big balling, but I've been able to put myself in a position and work hard to like, I don't have to look how much it costs me to put gas in my car. Like, I don't have to look when I'm grocery shopping, look how much it costs me. Like, that is more than luxury, Like, I've been able to put myself in a great position because of my mom and what I've learned from her and from her actions and what she's told me and just the kind of human she is. Like, the good and the bad, I've been able to learn in some way to make it to where I am today. And so it's just, that was a really big phone call that I was dreading today. But I did it. And I think it's the start of really building this relationship with my mom, because I know that the core, that is what has been like, that has been the one thing that has been holding me back all this time, and especially through bodybuilding and through my relationship. So it just feels nice that I'm finally at a time where like I'm fully focusing on myself, and I have a dog. I'm healing my relationship with my mom, and it's just going to start a new cycle of life for me and not have to, go through. I mean, we're all still going to go through stuff, but it just feels really good that I'm finally able to like, mend that relationship. And I now have a better idea of what I want to do in this life. It's only taken me 25 years. And I always feel so old and like I'm freaking already a grandma. But I really, for the first time, am like, I know what I want to do. And I'm going to pursue. I'm going back to school. Even though you don't need school to learn what I want to do. But it's just, there's so much information out there that I just need a little more consolidated. And if I can get free schooling, I really, like I said, nutrition, kinesiology, learning more about the body, how the body works. If I can go to school for free and learn about it and it's already structured for me, then I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go back, get a certification for nutrition or whatever is going to fit best for me. Being able to talk more online about that and be more educated, because I've never in the past, I just haven't really wanted to talk about things, because even though I do know things, I've been working out for a decade. I got my certification through NASM. Like, I went to school for kinesiology. Like, I've been working in a gym since I was I worked at a kickboxing gym at like 18, 19, 24 since I was around like 2021. So it's been a long time, and bodybuilding for 2.5 years. I've trained clients. I train clients. So I've learned a lot, but I just feel for whatever reason, like I feel like you can never learn enough. There's always stuff to learn, and having more certifications under my belt is just going to make me feel that much more confident about myself and that much more able to help you guys or whoever is following, if anyone's even listening at that point. Like, the only videos I feel like physically I can only listen to now are like educational stuff about supplements, about training, whatever. Like, I literally feel my brain rotting when I'm listening to anything else. Like, I used to listen to so many bullshit podcasts, but I literally cannot turn on a bullshit podcast without my mind being like, stop fucking watching this and go watch something educational. Even if I'm not fully focused on the educational thing, like, it needs to be something educational, because I could pick up something that I hear, and I don't mind rewatching a podcast 10 times and picking up new things, So it just feels really good to be at this point in my life where I'm like taking back control of my life. I'm trying to be more present, and you know, the main thing, the most important thing to me is just that relationship with my mom, keeping my head above water. And there's